Hi everyone, I'm Rob Rosa, Chief Medical Officer here at Swiss Re and also full-time general practitioner here in Salisbury in my medical practice at Millstream Medical Centre. Now, I've been asked by some of the claims guys to give you some top tips to talk you through the pitfalls of a telephone call and also to chat with you about some of your fears, your ideas, your concerns, perhaps even your expectations of what actually amounts to a very difficult telephone call. And the call essentially is about child CI and terminal illness. Now, before you've even picked up the phone, you're likely to have a bit of apprehension. How's the person going to relay the information to you? Will they have any sort of curveball questions? How can I structure the telephone call in such a way that I get all the information out of this and that sort of inadvertently you then don't upset the person at the end? And it's not uncommon, and I'm pretty sure you've all experienced it, where they'll have pretty difficult questions for you to answer. They may even misinterpret what your role is in all of these. Patients are often confused, they're bewildered, they're frightened, they've got fear, and of course you're cold calling them unless it's a specific call that they're expecting. So you need to understand the position that these people are in before you start, and you also need to understand your vulnerability, your concerns, and where you can potentially go wrong. So if you fail to prepare the conversation, you're essentially preparing to fail. Now then, the most important thing is an acknowledgement that actually with a telephone call, you're missing the one key part of communication that I've got when I'm consulting in here, and that is visual. You lack visual input, so you have no idea about non-verbal cues that the person at the end of the telephone may actually be making for you. And that's really, really important. The only thing that's in your favour is your intonation of speech, your rate of speech, the language that you use, and of course the effective use of pauses. These people are frightened, they'll have questions. You can use pauses to your advantage, but you need to structure in a way that actually it makes sense. So there are 4 key areas of any conversation that you must adhere to. The first point is the awareness of the circumstance. The second point is the structure of your agenda. The third point is the use of summarising, and the final point is closure, how you actually terminate that phone call. So if I break each of those down individually and we talk you through them, the first one is awareness of the circumstance, and the key pitfall that most people make is empathy. Now, that's not to say I'm devoid of empathy, absolutely far from it, but you must not use empathy as a shortcut and you then make self-disclosures. The last thing that you want to be doing in these conversations is saying things like, I know how you feel, this happened to me, or my parent was in a similar circumstance. Big mistake. You're not there to be these people's best friend. You are there to get information from them so that you as the insurer can make the right decision for them and the right decision for you. Self-disclosure is a typical technique that a lot of brand spanking new GPs use to their detriment. It's not a shortcut, and the patient will not thank you for that. They are the main focus of this call. All it does is it sets you off on a tangent and a dialogue and a discussion where actually it's of no relevance whatsoever. So you must be ever so careful. Be sympathetic, by all means be empathic, but make sure that your language is ever so careful. Do not use phrases like, I know how you feel. I would always say to you that use some of the stock phrases that I use, such as, this must be an incredibly difficult time for you. You must be under an awful lot of pressure. And that's a good chance then to actually turn around and say, look, in your own small way, you're here to help them and that you can guide them through this next part of the process. And of course, the conversation that you're having is all about a financial implication. So it may be a telephone conversation that actually they're looking forward to receiving. So you must never lose sight of that. Now, when it comes to introductions right from the start, what I would always say is always call the person by their surname. So Mr. X, Mrs. Y, Sir, Madam, if anyone is under the age of 18, by all means refer to them as Nathan, as Mark, as whatever their name is. But I wouldn't start the conversation off with, how would you like me to call you? Because that implies that you're not comfortable by calling them by Mr. or Mrs. And that's another pitfall. Wait for them to invite you to say, please call me X or please call me Y, but never make the assumption. When we're using the structure of the agenda, this is all about data gathering and obviously a fact finding. Now there will be some key pieces of information that you absolutely have to get out of this conversation. And I think it's imperative that before you do it, you write them down. Bear with me a second. Can I call you back in a second? I'm just doing a video. Is that right? Thanks. Just goes to show I'm on call, I can't get away from work. So, what was I saying? Structure of the agenda, data gathering and finding out your key facts. Write them down, stick to it. At the right part of the conversation, I would say at the start of the conversation, what you need to be doing is saying, I'm here to help, there are some key issues that we need to discuss today, and it will enable you to focus your mind and also to keep on track. It's quite nice also actually to throw in an apology. In law, an apology is never an admission of guilt, and actually it can serve you quite well. That's a nice way of actually being empathic. When I say an apology, what I mean is, look, I'm sorry to take your time up today. This is a call that is quite important and there are some issues that we need to do. But the apology at the start I think is quite nice, and it shows that there is a human rather than just a big bureaucratic insurer at the end of the telephone. Summarising is midway through, is when you start to take back control. So you've got all your information and let's say they're now going off on a tangent and you're entering a discussion, a dialogue that actually has got no real relevance. Or worse, it's just cyclically going round and round and round. They're venting, they're upset, they're bouncing ideas off you and you're just not getting the information. This is where a 10-minute conversation turns into a half-an-hour conversation. And you haven't got the time for this and it's not appropriate. So summarising is a way of interjecting at the right point and saying, okay, let me just summarise what we've gone through first of all. And you list off your 4 main points. That then allows you to close the conversation down. And closure is important. It's a type of signposting and safety netting. And you can say to them, look, thank you for taking the time to speak to me today. I understand this is a difficult time. If you have any further questions, this is my direct number, this is my line, or rather, this is the person that you need to get in touch with. Now, if you stick to these principles, actually, you won't go far wrong. As I said, the number one thing is that you're not there to be their best friend, so you've got to be ever so careful with empathy. So, in summary, always make sure that you're professional. Make sure that you use the patient by the right title. Avoid key phrases such as, I know how you feel. And then always be, what was that last one I was going to say to you? Oh, it's about self-disclosure. Make sure you do not self-disclose. And I think if you do that, you'll be fine. Good luck.